Thank you for joining us today. Today we have a wonderful client and friend who will give a testimonial about some of her experiences with my work. This is Linnea and Friends, and we're bringing people in to give you their testimonial on things that have come true for them. And the subject matter today is about apports. And an apport is spelled A-P-P-O-R-T. And an apport is a symbol that comes from the other side, and it's to let you know that they are watching over you, and they try to send little messages from the other side to capture your attention. To give you an example, a recent example, I was going to New York City to do an event recently, and my father had a very big connection to New York. And I said to my dad in spirit, you know, I'm going to New York, you have a connection there, send me something from you to let me know that you're watching over me. A few days later I was online, and I happened to see this little vintage beanie, and I often wear beanies in my professional work. And I kind of liked the look of it. So I purchased it, and they FedExed it to me a couple of days later. When I opened the FedEx box, the name inside the hat is Harold. That was my father's name. Mm-hmm. So I knew that my dad was watching over me, and he sent me a little message to say, you go, girl. I know where you are and what you're doing. The lovely client that we have today is Paula Grasso.
Hello.
And how long have we known each other?
6 years.
Right. And have I told you some things that have come true for you?
There's been many things that's come true.
All right. Do you want to explain one of the
Yes.
examples? Thank you.
About 6 years ago, I had come to you about somebody trying to reach somebody on the other side that I was very close to. And you told me that confirmation of me talking to this person, I would receive something with St. Anthony and something with an eagle's wing. That following August, I received this cover of a magazine at the hospital when my dad had been passed away. We were sitting in the waiting area, and I kept putting my soda on top of this cover of the magazine. And when I did finally really look at it to see what it was, on the top, if you can see, it says St. Anthony's Messenger.
Right.
And it is also a picture of a baby on his back with the eagle's wing.
Okay.
And at the time that I was speaking to you, you said this person was reading Matthew's Gospel.
Okay.
And on the top of it, it says Matthew's Gospel. Yes.
So how we would take that is, in your time of comfort and need, when you were losing someone quite special to you, your wonderful father, the person that communicated to us on our initial meeting was showing you a symbol to say that all would be well and that he was watching over you.
I believe he was there with me that day.
To guide you. So there was some comfort level.
Yes.
That when you saw that, it made the connection, like I did with my dad's name.
Exactly.
Now there are some other wonderful things that have
Yes.
transpired. Would you like to explain it?
We have a grandson, 4 years old, and at the time of his birth, before that, you had said to me, pennies from heaven.
Right.
When I was younger, my dad used to always give me all his pennies, and he would let me roll them up and cash them in and buy things that I would like. And you told me at that time that I was going to receive pennies from heaven from my dad.
Around the birth of a grandchild.
Around the birth of the grandchild,
Okay.
yes. So we were in the labor room with her, and the door kept opening and closing and opening and closing, and I would go out and there would be nobody there. So I would tease my daughter saying, you know, this is your grandfather, he's here with you. And when the baby was delivered, they put the baby on her stomach, and when they took the baby away to clean him, there was a nickel on her navel with her birth date on it.
1993?
1981.
1981.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to say that for me to have met you and to have predicted a beautiful grandchild, and it's a boy,
Yes.
and to say that you would receive a coin, a penny, some kind of coin, to let you know that it was your dad, I think everybody must have been very happy about
Yes.
that kind of apport, and she now wears it around her neck as jewelry.
Yes, necklace.
Okay. Now you have a beautiful niece,
Yes.
and I gave her a prediction, and what happened with that?
You predicted her as having a baby girl,
Right.
And with me, with my grandson, you said they were going to have babies close together, and they're exactly 1 month apart, same age. And you also predicted a new baby for her, and her new baby is now 5 months old.
And I happened to have the honor of coming to see you in May.
Yes.
I got to meet the new baby.
Yes.
So it's very overwhelming for me to walk in and to see these beautiful children that weren't there. And all of a sudden, your wonderful dad has made his presence known because he is the one that has predicted all the great-grandchildren. And I think that that brings a lot of comfort and joy to everybody in the family. Now, there was a more recent prediction about a business venue, and what happened with that?
Yes, you told me that I was going to be opening my own salon. You told me there was going to have pink walls and marble floors, and the place that I rented did have pink walls and marble floors. I painted over the pink, though, but it's still there today.
And the name of your company?
Is Head to Toe.
And the address?
Is 271 Salem Street in Malden.
All right, well, I wish you continued success. I think that your father is like a guardian angel around you. And when you do receive something of that magnitude, the St. Anthony's Aport, the hat with the name in it, the babies that are here on the earth plane, what would your comment be? How did you feel when all of these things came true for you?
I knew that my dad was still with me.
Right, and that the soul is eternal.
Yes.
Now, you know, they can send us some amusing things from the other side. I often get cartoons, references to different things, and that's to make you laugh. Now, I do believe that your father gave you a couple of cartoon references that you would receive as aports, and would you like to explain what happened?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A few times you kept mentioning Sylvester and Tweety. Sylvester and Tweety, that's all that kept coming up. So one time after you'd mentioned that, I took my daughter school shopping. And we're in the store, and of course girls like to buy their own things, so I sent her off with a little bit of money to buy different things, and she came back with a pair of jeans with airbrushed of Sylvester and a shirt with Tweety on it.
Okay.
Yes,
On
so
her
that
own.
was, yes, on her own, and so that I just giggled on that. And one time I was at work, and we were cleaning up the clinic floor because I worked at the school at the time, and I walked over to one of the stations that had a card right on top of the station, and I said, does this belong to anybody? And they said, no, we didn't even see that there. And I walked over to it, and on the card was a picture of Tweety, and when you opened it up, it said, all it said inside was, miss you lots. And I saved that. I still have that to this
All
day.
right. Well, I'm going to say that when they do give us a symbol, whatever it may be, spiritual, comical, metaphysical, and when you do receive it, that's telling you that you just received a spirit message, and the spirit message was delivered. So I would imagine when your lovely daughter came back, this is your younger girl,
Yes.
your lovely daughter came back with those two cartoons, you didn't tell her that, but your father guided her to buy that.
It was funny because my dad used to always buy her school clothes.
Okay.
So when she brought those back, I just automatically thought of what you had said to me, and I giggled. I thought it was.
And you found the Tweety
I thought it was
card.
really cool, though.
Well, yes, of course. And the thing is, it was the exact cartoon,
Yeah.
and it was with a child that he had a connection to that he used to buy her school clothes.
All the time.
So I think when you can come forward and tell everyone about your experiences, it just lends the credibility that, guess what? They watch over us with light and love. They try to connect with us. They're trying to make the communication. And when I have the ability with clients and friends such as yourself, it's just such a wonderful manifestation for me, because then I know that the people I've loved and lost are right there with yours. I can't do the mediumship for me. So I've made a prediction for you about your business, and I know it will come true. What I told you was that you would start the new venue. It would be a salon. It would be where where it's situated.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that you're going to get Best of Boston. I see the ribbon across the door.
Yes.
So I'm going to say very soon, when they do that survey and they come out and they look at everything, I feel that your venue is going to be categorized as Best of Boston. So please let me know when that comes
I
true.
will. That would be so
Wouldn't that
great.
be great?
That'd
So
be
thank
great.
you. This is
Thank you so much.
Very much. Thank you.
you.
This is Linnea and Friends, and today's topic was apports, A-P-P-O-R-T-S. And earlier we gave a few examples of what an apport is, and it's usually a symbol from the other side. And sometimes I might tell you that you're going to receive something, and then when you do, you realize it's a little message telling you that your loved one is watching over you. I have been the recipient of many apports, and more recently I was asking my father to send me something. My dad's in spirit many, many years. And I walked into a jewelry store, and I happened to trip in the very front of the store over something on the rug. And the owner came over and he was very concerned. He wanted to make sure I was all right. And he said, I actually vacuumed in that area. There was nothing there. And as we looked, there was a wooden nickel on the floor. My father used to collect wooden nickels, and I don't think they make them anymore. So the owner of the store kept telling me, believe me, I actually vacuumed that area, and I was in agreement that I said, I know that, but I said, I think my father heard me say, Dad, I miss you, and he sent me a very special remembrance of something that he was very involved in. He used to have a great big box filled with wooden nickels, and so you can see, I think my dad heard me, and he responded. I also have a mother in spirit more recently, and you know, losing your parents naturally, it's a very sad situation because you do miss them. And recently I did an event, and I went into a church fair the next morning, and I said to my mother, you know, if you could let me know you know what I'm doing and that you're watching over me, I would really appreciate an apport from you. And as I walked through the bookstore in the church, I came across kind of a worn-out book. It was on the shelf. It was the first book I picked up. So I took it off the shelf and I opened it up, and my mother had a nickname for me that nobody else called me. My mother was the only one, and her nickname for me was Bedelia. And you can see that the name of the book that I picked up, the very first book at the church fair, has my nickname in it. And I knew that that was a shining example of my mother sending me something that only I would be able to make a connection with. Nobody else knows that that was her special name for me. Recently, I did an event in St. Albans, Vermont for a radio show that I'm on. And when I was on my way to that area, my grandparents had a home in Winooski, a horse farm. And I said to my mother, I'm actually on my way to a place in Vermont that has quite a bit of a childhood memory for me. Please let me know you know where I'm going. On my way on I-89, I stopped at a little thrift store just to take a rest, and I walked in and I found this in one of the bins, and it says Bedelia. So I do feel that my mother somehow sent me the 2 apports with my name on it, and I do feel my father, with his sense of humor, sent me the wooden nickel. And there are many books out there that you can look at that will give you examples of apports. One of the books that I recommend frequently is called When God Blinks. And it's all about famous people that have had synchronicity experiences. I would recommend, if you're interested in pursuing that venue, to look for that book. It's called When God Blinks. There is another book that I recommend quite frequently, and it's a trilogy, and it's called Small Miracles for Men, Small Miracles for Women, and Small Miracles for Families. And it's just a collection of different apports and synchronicities that are too incredible to explain. So I would recommend that anyone wanting to know more about this subject to look at those particular books. I do feel that all of us can tap into this kind of situation. Some of us are more readily open to it. Other people, sometimes they have to train themselves to look for the messages that we receive. If you look around and you are, missing someone, you can ask them to send you something to let them know that you are trying to communicate with them. And if you look at my website, linneastar.com, you'll see many testimonials of people who have received apports, who have received messages from the other side. And there is a wonderful comfort level in knowing that the person you're trying to connect with has sent you that special message from them. Several years ago, I was in Paris, and my father's stepmother had come from Paris, and I said to her, I'm in Paris, please send me something that means something to you from me. And I happened to go to Notre Dame. When I walked into Notre Dame, it was in October, a very beautiful cathedral, and I was walking around when I saw it. There was a statue of St. Teresa in the hallway, my grandmother's favorite saint, and at the foot of St. Teresa was a huge pot, and it was filled with brown-eyed Susans. My father's mother had her favorite flower always at hand, a brown-eyed Susan. You don't find brown-eyed Susans in the middle of October anywhere, and I feel that my grandmother somehow reached out to me from the other side to let me know that she knew I was in Paris and that I was at the Cathedral of Notre Dame, a place that she frequented quite a bit in her youth. So I would ask people to have an open heart and an open mind, and my message always is that the soul is eternal, and that our soul continues on after our earthly life is finished. And if you can, open yourself up to that vibration. The possibilities are endless. Everybody has that within them, and you just have to be open to it and conducive to receiving the messages they're trying to send us from the other side. I do want to mention a saint that has been very special in my vibration, and if you look on my website, you will see a part of my website is devoted to her, and her name is Saint Catherine Drexel, Drexel. And I really didn't know who Saint Catherine Drexel was. I had no idea who she was, and my mother became very ill in October of 2000, and there really wasn't much hope. My mother was very, very sick, and she was failing. And I happened to hear about Catherine Drexel that week, and she was the daughter of the Drexel Foundation in Pennsylvania. And at the age of 30, she took $20 million of her own money, and she started the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. And she did a lot of work with Indian children, black children, disabled people. She was very, very compassionate and very altruistic. And she was canonized in October of 2000. And her miracles attributed to 3 deaf children that did not have the ability to hear, and their parents petitioned St. Catherine Drexel, and their hearing was restored, thus constituting the miracles that allowed her to become a saint. As my mother was, dying, I petitioned Catherine Drexel, and I stood out in the hallway, and I asked her, I said, if you can hear me, if you can give me back my mother, I will do the mediumship the way it was intended, and I will tell the world of you. And the doctor was very, very nice, but he said, I don't think we have any hope. And I said, well, I'm going to have to go with my faith. And I stood next to my mother's bed, and I called to her. And I said, open your eyes, move your hands, move your feet. And she did. And the doctor was very nice, and he said, I think that's a reflex. And I said, again, I have to disagree. I think she heard me. So I stayed with my mother until dawn, and then I went home. And at 7:15, the doctor called me from Salem Hospital, and he said, can you come back? And I said, did I lose her? And he said, your mother has awakened. We have some hope here. He goes, this is a miracle. So I flew back to Salem Hospital. I ran into the ICU unit. I peeked over the bed. She was sitting up looking at me. And I said, hi. And she said, you called me back. I said, I did. She said, I want to live. And I said, I want you to. And I had my mother for another 5 years. She got up to 144 pounds. She was 80 pounds at her illness. She walked again, talked again, and did almost everything that she could do before the illness. And then when I had to give her back, 5 years later, I'm keeping my promise to St. Catherine Drexel because she kept her promise to me. And that is the reason that I do the mediumship, because she gave me back my mother for those 5 years. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. And thank you.
Channeling the spirit the way I will channel in a few minutes. And the name of the spirit he's channeling is Johansson. And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Linnea Johansson. My name is Linnea Johansson. My mother was Eleanor Johansson, and nobody in the world, I don't care, King, Queen, Donald Trump, no one will ever tell me otherwise, that my mother heard me. My mother put the book in the pathway of me, and it's got our name in it. And I'd like to show you that, because it says my name, just so you can see it says Johansson. That's called an A-port. And an A-port is when they send you something quite by surprise. And many times during my work, I will tell you you're going to get something, and that's why I have the website, because people write in when they do receive it. I do want to share a couple of other things. La 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 la. Does someone go to Italy around you? Does someone have a connection to Italy? All right, well, they're showing me 2 places. They're showing me Palermo, Sicily, and they're showing me the Isle of Capri. Does someone have a connection there? All right, Sicily, who came from Sicily? All right, well, mine didn't. Mine came from Sweden. Just giving you the... Well, they're asking for your mother. Where's your mom? All right, why do they say Anna? Anna, Anne, who is that? Anne, is that someone's middle name? Anna. Right, Anna. Hey, Olivia! And where is this lovely lady? I'm sorry for that. So they're all standing there. And your grandmother, and you said someone came from Sicily. Did your grandmother come from Sicily? All right. And she's also telling me, why does she say Assunta? Assunta. Asunta. Who is Asunta?
My husband's cousin just passed away a couple of weeks ago, so
Dun 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 dun.
that's an unusual name.
Well, she says show Asunta. That was a cousin of your wonderful husband. How old is this lady that just passed?
She was 83.
I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for that. But your grandmother is telling me someone's taking a pilgrimage. They're going back to Italy. I see Rome, Milan, Florence. Is someone telling you about that? All right, well, you're going to hear news about a trip.
Am I going to go?
And why does she say Heather? Heather. Heather. Well, I hear Heather and Riley. So listen to those names. And she said you great love. She says you were her favorite. There you go.
Thank you.
Ba, 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 ba. And how about has the watch, all right? Why is he shining November around you? What is November?
November, he died.
I'm sorry for that. Right. Why does he say love at first sight? Is it love at first sight?
No.
That's great, huh? Well, he says on his end it was.
That's right.
He says love at first sight, that's what he says. And why is he saying the name Gallagher to me? Who is that? Gallagher. Gallagher. Well, listen to the name Gallagher. You don't know it yet. But you knew Regina Angelorum. You know that your son has his watch, all right? And who is Albert, Alfred, Alphonse? Who is that?
Alfonso was his father, and Albert was his nephew.
Hey, there you go. La, 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 la. He says Alphonse and Albert. So Alfonso was this wonderful man. That's your granddad, okay. Why does he say Joe? Joey, Joseph, Josephine, who's that?
His sister, Joseph.
Josephine, is she still here?
No.
All right. And why does he show me Abruzzi in Italy, the Abruzzi coast? Does somebody go there? Does someone have a connection there?
They're probably from there.
Hey, well, there you go. Okay. Why is he saying he never can say goodbye? He's telling me that he never really got to say goodbye to some people. He says he's telling me he just fell asleep,
He did.
number one.
He just died like that.
Yes.
My mother tried to say goodbye, but
That's all right, but he says, I just fell asleep. It was very peaceful. He says, and I just didn't get to say goodbye. So I think if they come back to tell you that, that's just to let you know that God called them. And when God calls, we kind of have to answer that call.
Yeah.
Did he know, Nikki?
very well.
Well, there you go. Why does he say Forest Street, Forest Road, Forest Avenue? Someone's going to buy property on Forest Street, Forest Road, and I'm going to take it to be a young married couple. So I would say whenever a child is married, the home that they might dwell in could live there. And you know, you have to take this for what it is. I don't know you. And I'm giving you stuff from your wonderful dad. I certainly didn't know you. And you got stuff from your wonderful brother. And you got stuff from your friend. And your husband came over and your wonderful daughter was telling me, and you too, that you did have rosary. You saved the flowers from the rosary beads.
So I thank you for joining us, and I hope that the information has opened up your vibration to the possibilities. And again, we will see you again, and thank you.
Oh